I mean, I couldn't do all of this. Like, this is all magic.
Well, were you able to access the link?
We actually came over not too long ago.
Oh, on the Facebook page, the event invitation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. 17 years
Oh,
now.
wow.
A couple years ago, going now.
Or you bought one? Oh, you see. Okay.
But
Yep, if you scroll.
about it.
And then
It's an interesting
discussion.
person.
Riverside. So if you see about and discussion button at the top.
Into accounting and second profession.
Yay!
Basically broke his back. So it's not what he originally started. But yeah, he's like a dad to me. Because he doesn't have any kids or anything.
Oh, that's really sweet.
And then we get angry at each other like that too.
Are you in the room, Cari Olivia? Oh, okay. Yes.
What brought you up?
I was
smack myself in the face.
in the military, so we got stationed here when I went to college. I was saying,
Oh yeah. I put you on there as co-host, but I was like, if you because it's your space too. So
and it was really
when you involved,
actually, I got my master's.
you can ask questions or answer questions.
Those first few years, and yeah, it's been good.
All right. So. Well, hey, all right. I'm Jameka Lache, and welcome to an interesting day. And welcome to Peculiar Push Live podcast, usually on Thursdays on KSUA 91.5 FM, on the UAF radio station. I host a show at 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. But I wanted to actually bring it out of the radio station and bring it in to a room with some women who are influential and are making an impact in whatever walk of life that they're in. You don't have to actually be a celebrity or a major influencer to have impact. And that is what the purpose of this conversation is. The topic is Worry No More. And we'll have some people joining in. See, there's somebody that just came in. That's so cool. Watching from the audience, and I am wanting to introduce our co-host first. This is Cari Mayo. Thank you so much for allowing us to have your space here at Jade Boutique here in Fairbanks, Alaska, right on First Avenue. So downtown, if you are in the area, she has a lovely event space that she's transitioning out of the thrift store space. Could you just say hello?
Hi. Well, I'm really happy that we got to do this, Jameka, and I'm excited about just seeing how it goes.
Our next guest is Miss Princess Johnson. She is a wonderful creative, and I want her to introduce herself.
Cho for having us, Jameka, Shalaknai, my relatives, Shoji Daazhraii, Netzai Guchin Ithi. My name is Princess Daazhraii Johnson. I am Netzai Guchin on my mother's side. I'm Ashkenazi on my father's side, and live here on Lower Tamna Dene lands, and just delighted to be in this space with all of you.
And I appreciate you for acknowledging the land that we're on, because that is very vital, especially when we are borrowing space. So thank you. All right, our next guest is Miss Kelly Ward. She is a CPA, and she is just going to help us not worry anymore about about our finances and being responsible adults. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. So Kelly Ward, I own Robinson & Ward here in Fairbanks. I've been here about 18 years and glad to be a part of the community and bringing some fun today.
Thank you. And our final guest, which does not make her the least guest for at all. If I can actually turn my camera, there we go. She is Miss Mahogany, Prophetess Mahogany Mitchell. She is the pastor of Hope Church here in Fairbanks, Alaska. And, being a young pastor is something that just takes a lot of courage. So I thought it would be very beneficial for her to talk about how to maintain faith and not worry anymore about who you are. So can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I am Mahogany Mitchell. I am the campus pastor here at the Hope Church of Fairbanks. I've been in Fairbanks about 9 years. And yeah, today is going to be fun because I never saw myself being a pastor. And so I'm really excited about this conversation of worry no more, because being told that I was being put in that position definitely gave me some worry. But just trusting and believing in who God said that I was allowed me not to worry anymore. So I'm excited to share today and be here with all these beautiful ladies and all our beautiful guests.
And as I take a seat, because I'm like, why am I standing? I definitely want to just go ahead and get started on, you're talking about worry no more. You introduced that you were put into a position that you did not expect. What were you doing before you became a pastor?
So I was actually executive director at my church, and I was also a licensed minister. I joined the ministry in February 2017. Shortly after they opened, Apostle Kenny and Prophetess Monet Kenny, they started the church in 2016, that November. And so I went to the first service, and then I didn't come back, and then I felt led to go back and to actually join the ministry. So I joined that February of 2017. And later on, like I was going, through trials and tribulations, just those things that you go through. And I heard the Lord clearly, say to me that you are called to do more. And I was like, what exactly is that more? Because I'm from a family of pastors and evangelists, and so I knew of their life, but there was not a life that I was necessarily going to choose for myself. Just seeing the pressures and just the different things that come with it. And so I became the executive director. I was over the finance ministry, and then I became a licensed minister. And so I was doing those things prior to, being asked to be the campus pastor. It was kind of like an ask tell. Tell like, you're going to be, would you be? But it was I definitely know that it was the Lord's doing so, because there's times that we have to be pushed into position because we won't do it on our own. Yep. And so it just reminds me of a mama bird. They always push their babies out of the nest because they won't fly, if they're not pushed to fly. And so I got my wings that day. Right. So yeah.
I don't know. For some reason, I wanted to, direct the question to you. As far as being a mother and being pushed into certain positions, how did you actually come into knowing who you are as a creative? And even when you got your start, like, how did you get your start as a creative?
So, I think that, similar, to the story that you just shared, I think we're all born creatives. Mm-hmm. And I think that for me, creativity was an outlet and a way as a very young child to try to make sense of suffering, of my own suffering, or try to make sense of the world around me. Mm-hmm. And it has continued to be that source of outlet. And to me, I think creativity and the source of creativity is absolutely divine. Mm-hmm. It is divinity. And that's where I feel held, and that's where I feel also the sparks of energy that are life affirming come from that real creative source. And then I think what makes it easier for me as an artist not to judge what I make, because it's you could get really judgy about critical of yourself, is just to remind myself it's about the process, right? And that we're all learning. And it's funny because this worry no more, I worry about something probably every day. Yeah. It's just the practice, of and finding that thing, maybe finding a way to serve others, or like finding that thing that like gives you fulfillment and joy that helps diminish the worry, and really just also talking about it to others, like just so you don't feel so isolated and alone when you do have anxiety, when you do have, because we all have that.
Yes.
So, Miss Kelly, I had the pleasure of attending one of your events recently, and you were talking about how you were in a Dave's Ramsey conference, and you were 16 or so, and you were worrying about finances. So I wanted to know, how did you actually accept that may be a calling for your future at such a young age?
Right. Yeah. Being raised with two parents that were small business owners, they weren't together, but it's just, you saw that kind of lifestyle where you're working all the time. There's no separation between life and work. And, are they going to be at the ball games? Just all of those things. And I didn't really realize the impact that would have. I was really good at numbers. I didn't know what I was going to do. But watching everything they put on credit cards and just all of that kind of thing, once I got into the industry and started dealing with small business clients, it kind of came full circle. And it was like, I don't want other people's children or other people to have that life. So if there's anything I can do to help them, to help their families, the generational wealth, the generational lifestyle, things like that, have conversations about money so it's not as taboo, and that maybe the children aren't educated because they just didn't know. You don't know what a credit card does one way or the other. All these things can be positive, but you have to have the conversations around them. So it's one of those things where it was just my experience kind of turned into an accidental passion later, right?
Yeah. And I appreciate the accidental passion, because that is walking in your purpose without even have to think about it.
Right.
So, Miss Carrie, I actually do have a question for you,
Yes.
because you have this space, and you've had this space for a while.
Yes.
How did you actually just decide, like, this is something I want to try, and stick with it for so long?
Yeah. Well, the space, it came available, and then we thought it was perfect because, well, I've always liked thrifting, and then I totally believe in just finding other ways. Because when you get, like, well, it's recycling. You get more, just kind of a more of a unique selection. And then plus it doesn't cost as much. And so that was something I was like, well, I could bring this to Fairbanks and enjoy what I do. And it's been good. It's been really good to me. But then more recently, I just realized that that time is really precious. And then I have a 2-year-old daughter, and so that takes a lot of my time. And I just realized I stood back and I just thought, well, what do I really want to do? Because I really want to do more with helping people, with talking to other people, and then just trying to balance that and run the store. It just really didn't work out for me. So that's where I'm just taking this leap of faith, where I'm just saying, well, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to have in this space, but I know it's going to be good. I just feel like that life, I feel like God, I feel like my faith is pulling me toward something. And then just even meeting you, even you coming in, I feel like things are just really falling into place, and I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be, but I know it's going to be something good. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it did.
Yeah.
I thank you for just sharing that portion, because having faith and taking a deep breath, even though you want things to be perfect, it gives you just
Without the worry.
without the worry.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to share about how can we not worry about what the next step is, and just trust that we're going to be able to just to fulfill whatever we're called to do?
I believe for me, I've had to learn that every season has an expiration date. Like trouble truly does not last always. And what I like to think of, just like, just say if you get a scar or a broken bone. Like with treatment, and over time it begins to heal. And so the season where you were hurt or the bone was broken, it is no longer because it is now, healed. And so that's how I like to look at things. And just like sometimes it's just, even when the world around us seems like everything is falling apart, it's eventually going to, you're going to be able to put it back together. Just even now, just thinking about the tragic, storm that happened in Clarksville with the tornado. It's like, now they're in the process of just assessing the damage. But eventually a plan is going to come in place to rebuild. And so always looking for those opportunities that, I can rebuild. I can start over. It's okay that life is not life in the way I would like it to life right now. I'm going to have, every day that we wake up, we have an opportunity to do something different, to try it again, and to just become better at those things that we want. And I think it's just knowing that you have the opportunity to try again. You have resources available to you. You have to, it's going to require some work. The Bible tells us that faith without works is dead. So we can have ideas all day long, but if we don't put action to those things, they're simply that, just ideas. And so I believe for me, just trusting the God that I serve, trusting my faith, and knowing that it's all going to work out for my good, it helps me not to worry. It helps me not to stress, because I know that I can build again. I may be hurting right now, but I'm going to be healed. Life may have crumbled around me, but I can rebuild. I just have to take a step back, breathe, reevaluate, see, okay, I don't need that, so we're going to take that out. Okay, I need more of this, so I'm going to add some more into that. It really just puts you in this place of just evaluating.
Right.
And when you kind of just write it out and you're looking at it, it's like, oh, yeah, this is a piece of cake. I just think about, one more thing, I'm sorry. I was just thinking about sometimes, like when I'm planning an event, it can be so stressful. Right. And I'm like, oh my God, I got this to do. But I started writing things down. I became an adult not too long ago. And I started writing things down. And as I wrote them down and checked them off, I was like, oh, this is not too bad. Because I'm not just allowing everything to flood and cloud my mind. I'm actually writing it down, sending it on paper, and seeing it get accomplished.
Right.
And so it's just like there's nothing to worry about because you have a system, a plan in place. And so it's really just about reevaluating, assessing what needs to be done, and going from there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have a reaction to that because Cari and I were just talking about how as Indigenous people, we were raised without, I'll just speak for myself. I did not have any notion of financial literacy. I was like, fell victim to credit cards when I was in college, and just really didn't even understand like interest, and that I was being like charged, interest. And we're at this like really pivotal moment in time where I feel like we need to share whatever knowledge we have, because a lot of times when we feel overwhelmed, and a lot of times that is related to our finances, like that's when people take their own lives. Like that's like it is such a high stress thing. And I think that making it just openly saying to somebody like, I need help. Like this is overwhelming me. But then also I think it goes really deep in the sense that banks are predatory.
Oh, absolutely.
And so these institutions that we all know were not built to serve us. And have really like blocked us out intentionally, right? I think it's time that like we come together and think of ways outside of the system to have that mutual aid, that mutual support. Yeah. But and it is also tied to our values. Yes. And I just think about our Indigenous values of like, you need to know the difference between a want and a need. Yes. And this kind of like hyper consumption society. That's why I like love like your work here, and like the idea, the notion of like reusing things and like keeping things in the community, keeping our dollars in the community, supporting the local economy is just like, it's so critical. Yes, you're so smart having all these women
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah, and I just really feel deeply about that, and I just feel like if we can build networks and help one another, like what you said about like financial. I did the same exact thing, and my son mentioned that. He talked about when he graduated from high school, he was making a joke. He's like, they taught me all this useless information, but they didn't teach me about credit. They didn't teach me about balancing a checking account. He was like, but then they sent me all these credit card offers. And so I really believe that if we can just inform one another and then be there and just rooting back to our culture, because our culture is about balance. Like, you don't take more than you need and you share what you have. You let it regenerate. And I just feel like if we could just incorporate more of that into other areas of our life, and then just having that faith, and then just having faith within. And there's and just worry free, because I feel worry really doesn't serve a purpose. I feel like sometimes, like, when we have that fight or flight or that worry feeling, it's meant to, like, get us out of a dangerous situation. But if it's there too long, then it can really get us off course or get us out of the area. And I just remember when I was a child, I think of this a lot when I get into situations. When I was a child, I was swimming in the Yukon River at fish camp with my grandpa, and I went out too far, and then I started panicking a little bit, and I was going under, and then just something in me told me, just calm down, like, see where you're at, breathe, get under the water, and swim towards the shore. And so I just think of that in different situations, because, like, when you get into a panic, that can just add more to what you're trying to do, and then you get off course. And so I just think of that a lot of times in different situations. Just think, well, where am I going to go with this? Like, how am I going to resolve this? And how can I just keep myself in a peaceful place? And then you can get, just get more done and think more clearly. So, yeah, that's just something I want to just create more networks like this. Just have everybody bring something to the table where we can really just help one another. And because there's a lot of things I'm not good at that somebody else is, and I can get more insight into that. And so, yeah,
just like Kelly on top of their information.
yes. Oh yeah, useful information.
Yes.
Okay. Somebody else?
Yeah, I'll just add on. Well, I joke sometimes that in appointments, tax appointments or otherwise, that I'm also a marriage counselor and family counselor and things like that. I mean, you have to find someone that no matter what, it's like finding the group that you can communicate with and not feel like you're being judged and stuff like that. Because I mean, it's like people are apologizing for crying. It's like, why are you like this is your life? Like, that's absolutely, like, no crying in baseball, no crying in taxes. Like, we got this. But it's like finding that safe spot and stuff. And especially like in a community like Fairbanks, where there's so much small business, there's so much. What I really like to try to help people understand is that you are not alone.
Right.
Like, everybody is having the same questions, the same issues. They may be at different levels, but there's no silly questions. And I think just kind of like having that, like, permission to say, I'm scared or I'm overwhelmed and things like that, and that it's okay to talk about it, and stuff like that is important.
Yes, yeah, without judgment.
Right.
Actually, being from Clarksville and being away from everyone, it's kind of hard because I'm so used to being a helper. But seeing the community come together and how the small businesses are actually thriving and helping each other, it opens your eyes to, we want to support local big businesses because it still keeps people employed. But then we have to realize that there are families that are impacted, just families that are impacted that can actually grow to be one of those big businesses one day, but a big business locally. And I just, like, a shameless plug, I guess it's not shameless, but if you are wanting to donate to anyone, there are resources. And if you just even email me at Jameka Lache Horton, that is JAMEKA LACHEHORTON @gmail.com. I will be just sharing information, as well as there are, like, my church back home, Mosaic Church, and that's MOSAIC Church. They're just doing a lot of initiatives there to try and help rebuild the city. So thank you for even bringing that up. As we talk about women and being women from different age ranges, and having different sorts of impact in the community, how do you all maintain your faith in situations where people don't, see eye to eye with you, what you believe? How do you just continue to just stay courageous on that and just walk in your purpose there?
I think that's definitely been something that's evolved for me over time. Starting out fresh out of college, having conversations with people, there was pushback on you're not old enough, or I'd rather work with someone that has more, experience and things like that. And so I think, having your faith, your boundaries, healthy boundaries that you set, what you're going to allow, because the reality is like you're choosing to have that in your mind. You're choosing to let people take up space, if it's causing concern and things like that. I also think that as small businesses and things like that, we allow more to happen because we feel like we need the clients, we need this and that. And I've gotten to a point where if they're not a client or someone that I enjoy working with, or that it's a relationship that's healthy, I will let them go. Because it's the more you give, the more you receive. You let that person go, you're going to get someone else that's a better fit that you really can speak to at a deeper level. And then, I hold to the thing that everything happens for a reason and it's time. And it may not make sense at the time, and it's super overwhelming. I mean, earlier this year, I kind of got to a point where I was like, I think I'm just going to burn it to the ground and start over, And what came from that, like you mentioned, kind of, rising again, what came from that is a whole new direction and stronger foundation of, what, we're leaning in, and now the team is so much, like we're tighter. It's just the energy that you're pushing forward. And I think if you don't have that faith, you don't have that foundation, something to really hold yourself steady and accountable, then it's easy to be swayed by those that, aren't in that same position. Okay.
So for me, in those situations, like sometimes where you seem like you are the sore thumb, the eyeball, I just learned really to embrace just being myself. A lot of times, like growing up, I was always, the chubby girl, so people would like to, they started thinking I was crazy because they would make jokes and I would laugh with them. My mom, she always instilled in me like a confidence of, she was like, there are things about yourself that you already know. So there's no need in allowing somebody to tell you what you already know about yourself. So she encouraged me. She was like, the next time somebody tries to make a joke or say something, she said, you just start to laugh with them because you already know these things. And I love that, my mom, she helped me to look at, reality. And I didn't live, she didn't allow me to live in la la land. Because the thing is, the harsh reality is that, we all just have different realities. We all deal with different things. And so it's no need in trying to be something that you're not. Right. Because you can only put that facade up for so long. So why not just embrace who you are and be who you are naturally? Because even in college, I thought that I had to do things to try to fit in when, like, one time I just realized people were like, you just a cool person, to be around. And I'm just like, and here I am thinking I had to try to mold myself to fit into these different spaces that I was really never meant to be a part of. But people were naturally drawn to me. But sometimes you can miss out on just how good of a person you are trying to be what you think everybody wants you to be. And so I would just say it's very important just be who you are, be your authentic self. Yes. Like there's no need in trying to mold yourself and shape yourself into what other people want you to be, because we're fickle as people. We don't know if we're going, we don't know if we're coming, our emotions change daily, we change daily. So just imagine if you're trying to, appease people who don't even know what they want to eat when you ask them. I'm hungry. What do you want? I don't know. So just think if you're trying to constantly change yourself and shift yourself to be something for a person that's insatiable, you're going to drive yourself crazy.
Man.
Yes.
That's
you are going to drive yourself crazy. And then they're going to be like, have y'all seen no, I heard last time I checked, she checked herself in. Like, she checked herself in. And, and it's like, it's something we can joke about, but it's real. Right. Like, people literally, they do commit suicide. They do go into, states of depression. They do start to have, eating disorders. They do start to isolate themselves because they're trying so hard to be something that somebody else wants them to be.
Right.
I'm sorry, I cannot be the person you created me to be in your
Right.
head.
And you didn't even create me.
Right, and it's just like that person that you're wanting me to be, I cannot live up to those expectations. I can only live up to what God created me to be, and it's just to be me.
Right.
And so you either gonna take it or you just gonna leave it where it's at. But I have my people that the Lord, has allowed me to call friends and that are acquaintances and people, even you ladies, just being able to be in this space with you guys, like this was divine. And so it's just like we were simply ourselves,
Right.
and we got invited into this space. And so be yourself, people.
Yes.
Be yourself.
Yes.
I just going off of this, like staying in this vein, you specifically are tasked to make sure that your culture is represented authentically. So how do you make sure that you're authentic in representing, the culture authentically?
I'm still like, and everything, I'm just resonating with everything all of you are sharing. And I think that it's a process, like being comfortable, in your own skin is, and for me and my identity has been a process. And like you were saying, it's just like, I can't help but I am who I am, and it is informed by my life experience. It's also informed by my ancestors because we do inherit many things, beautiful things from our ancestors. We also inherit trauma. We also inherit those things. And I was reminded recently that when we heal ourselves, we also get to heal something in our ancestors too. So I think that for me, and recently I think it's been really challenging, and I feel like in these challenging spaces where I'm saying things that maybe somebody else doesn't agree with, that I always go back to love. Like I always go back to, well, I am going to always stand on the side of humanity. I am always going to see the human in somebody else. I'm going to see the children of the world as our collective children. And life is sacred, all life, and I include our animals and our fish and the rivers. And so I think it's really important to stay steadfast. It's like your moment in the Yukon. You just had that kind of intuitive knowing and calmness. And these are spiritually challenging times. There's multiple genocides happening in the world right now, in the Sudan and Congo and Palestine. And how are we called to rise spiritually in this moment for our collective human family, and remember we are human beings.
Yes.
Oh, yes. It's like worry no more. Who are you? You're a human first. So that's we have to realize that we have the duty just to be ourselves. Because if we're not ourselves, then we're not making any progress towards helping the generations after us. So I appreciate you for sharing that. Did you have anything to add to that, Ms. Cari?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes. Well, yeah, and I agree with everything everybody's saying. And then love, because I really truly believe love is the strongest of all things. And I just think of how I was raised. My grandmother was she was almost 97. She passed away 2 years ago, but she really was the biggest influence in my life. And she was very strong into the culture, and she taught me the values. And my parents, I'm so grateful for them. Despite, being young parents, they really taught us love and accepting people. Yeah. And they always treated everybody good, even though all of them experienced racism in their lifetime, but they always taught us, like, you treat people good, but always know who you are. Yeah. And my grandmother had a very strong voice, and I'd never heard them talk bad about anybody, but I saw how my parents would just be friends with, like, people that weren't like us. And then it was just like good people. And so I think that what they really taught me was just have that belief in you. And I didn't get it right away. Like, I mean, I'm still learning a lot of this, and I just turned 46, and I'm still learning along the way. And I'm like, wow, like that was a really good lesson. And so I just feel like when we just keep that love within, when we have that moral value and just try to do the best that we can, like make the best decision for not just us, but for others. And I mean, it doesn't mean that we have to give everything or allow things. Of course, there's going to be boundaries, but I just feel like when we just have that love within, like we can be led in the right direction, and then people will come into our lives. And sometimes we don't realize it, but then sometimes people are meant to come into our lives. And so
Yeah.
I just feel like that things are changing. There's a lot of well, like she said, just a lot of like shifts happening, and I just feel like I feel hope for the future. And it might not happen. Things are still going to happen, but I just could just feel this, that people are going to start coming together and just start finding ways that we can improve life, that we can make the world a better place.
For sure.
So, yeah.
Well, we have to because the government's not doing it.
Well, yeah, just being aware of all that. And I'm so aware of these things, and I'm just like, they're lying to us. They are lying. Like, that is not the truth there. And so, yeah, and I just think like just being true to who you are, because then you won't fall into, or you'll be less likely to fall into traps of just doing things that aren't moral, or even like when they're just, some people are just like, well, I have to do this because it's my job. And maybe because I walked away from a job before and I'd never done that, and I was making good money, but I just didn't feel aligned with it. I'm just like, I'm like, I can't live with myself. I feel like I'm selling my soul. And I just decided one day I'm not going to go back in. And I felt better about it. And I should have worried. But then the next day I got another job offer. So everything just fell into place. So I think like that's where we can just say, like, just have that faith, because I believe life will lead you right where you're meant to be. And if we're worried, then we'll be so distracted we might not see that opportunity, or we might not know that, you know, something is pulling us towards something that's meant to be. So
Yeah. When you worry, you're delaying the process. It sounds
yes,
like.
yeah,
And it actually reminds me of earlier when you were talking about the scar. I don't know, earlier this week I was thinking about that too. Like, if you get a scab, and sometimes it starts itching because it's healing. But if you start scratching, it's going to delay the process. So like, if you're trying to like find your way or make the things happen, you're going to delay the process of where you're actually supposed to be. So I do appreciate all of you ladies for coming and spending your time, even though the hour grew late. I've learned so much from each one of you since I've met you all, and I'm hoping we could have more conversations like this with like different ladies. But I really want to know, how did you actually find comfort in who you were? Like, when was there a defining like obstacle? Like you just shared, you quit your job. Yeah, was there a defining moment where you're like, that's not me, that's me, and I'm going to stick with it? Was there anything specific you wanted?
So for mine was actually just recently, like a couple of years ago, actually COVID year, 2020. I made a decision to have a surgery that was a weight loss surgery. Actually, a lot of my family members and things like that had been having a lot of health issues, and COVID. I'm trying to do conversations on Facebook Live and all those things, and all I'm doing is looking at myself and just not happy. And it was taking away from the message. And I made the decision, and I also made the decision with all the things you're supposed to do after a surgery like that I wasn't going to do that. I was not going to sacrifice all of these things, to just eat one little bite here and there, and not drink this and not do this and eat this. Like, I was going to choose to, the rest of my life, do what I wanted to do, as far as like making realistic choices. And, for me, I feel better about myself. I did not meet goals with weight loss and things like that, but I don't even think about it anymore either. And now that I've like found comfort in my own skin, for me, then all of the other things, I feel like I can walk into a room and, if it's like little things going on, the whispering, I don't even acknowledge it. Like, I walk in chest first through the doors, no one else in that room matters, in regards to like what they're saying about me. I don't need that. I choose not to accept that energy and that negativity. And I just think in that you become more and more empowered because you're taking the power over, how you're feeling about yourself and what you're going to bring to the room.
I don't feel like I have like one defining moment, but I think a practice that has been really helpful to me on my journey as a human being is embracing whatever emotion comes up for me, because as much as I would like to say, oh, I work out of a place of love every single moment of my life.
Yeah.
There are moments where I am angry, frustrated, there are, whatever those uncomfortable feelings that you don't want to be driven by those feelings is, and this is a practice, is like acknowledging it, being like, oh, Princess, you are really angry right now. Maybe you shouldn't respond to that email right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is like just, taking a moment and like breathing into whatever that feeling, being a friend to your emotions. I think curiosity is a superpower. Like when you use curiosity, you're like, oh, why am I feeling this way? What is being triggered inside of me? And just having that, giving yourself the moment of like self-reflection, so that you can come from a more healthy, respond to people and situations in a more grounded manner, and also own maybe, if you hurt somebody or if you triggered something, like you're like, ooh, like, okay, I'm gonna own that. Like I probably shouldn't have responded, in that way, and that's just, I think, things that it's helpful in all of our relationships. Being able even to have like a healthy dialogue when you are in conflict, and not have a screaming match.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though you mentioned the word trigger, and I was thinking about the tornadoes again, because the defining moment for me was moving here. And specifically, I wanted to make sure to mention that if you are wanting to donate to any relief, there's also a partner, a foundation called Prior to Change. It's PRYORTOCHANGE. And that is like a partnership of the company Black Fusion Universal. So I wanted to make sure to shout that out. And also, just there are other things going on in the world that right now is like impacting in my brain. So I wanted to know, did you have anything to share on that last question?
Oh, sure. So I think for me, just a defining moment in embracing fully who I am and who I was, it came earlier this year. Like I've always just, exercised confidence and, affirmed myself and did different things like that. But I was just entering into a different just era or phase of my life. So I turned 35 and I just started back working because I had took a year and a half off to just do my business and to just kind of find some peace and joy within. And because like you were saying earlier, Cari, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. Yes. And so I had to make a decision to just stand up for myself. And just and so I left feeling peaceful. I traveled, did a bunch of different things. So I was excited. And so, but this year I turned 35 and I was just looking at myself in the mirror and I was just like, okay, Mahogany,
you're gorgeous, girl.
That was not it. Now this morning I said this because I was just like, oh, I am feeling like myself today, and I just felt so good. But in that moment, it's just like I faced the reality. I gave myself language for what I was feeling because a lot of times we don't do that. Right. We don't give ourselves the language for what we're truly, feeling, and sometimes we'll put our feelings off on the back burner to ensure that we are compensating, making sure everybody else is compensating for it and their feelings are, heard and different things like that. So I had to have a real moment with myself and just talk about the things that I did not like, concerning myself and what I did not like about how life was going for me, and just even just physical appearance and just finance. It's just I had to have a real conversation with myself. And in that moment, it was really just like eye-opening for me, because there was things about me that had changed that I didn't even notice, because I was so busy just wanting to make sure that everything was going right. You know, I'm a new pastor, you know, trying to make sure everything is good, trying to, you know, in a relationship, trying to make sure that they're, you know, good, and that, you know, I guess, you know, when you're in a relationship, you just kind of, and it's an intentional relationship, you just want to make sure that, you know, okay, doing all right, everything is good, you know, any issues you have with me, you know, it's just like, I was just in this place where just caring for everybody. I started back working, and life was happening to me, and I was not addressing what was happening to me. And so I just really decided that, you know, moving forward, like, I'm taking my life back. Right. You know, I just really had a moment, and I had to write down, this is who you are. Yeah. You know, this is, you're living in your purpose, but you can't even enjoy it because of everything that's going on that you're not addressing. Mm-hmm. And so I really, you know, I am Mahogany. You know, I am a pastor. You know, I am a mentor. Mm-hmm. I am a friend. I am a daughter. You know, I am a business owner. Mm-hmm. You know, I had to really just walk into and talk myself into it, because these are things that define me. Right. These are things that make up who I am. You know, this is a part of my specific, you know, DNA that the Lord gave me. I tell everybody there's things that we're called to that only our DNA will unlock.
Wow.
Because if there's something, if there's an assignment that I have, I can't expect Jameka to do it. And so I have to make sure that I'm whole and healed so that I can move forward. And even if I'm being healed throughout the process, I still have to show up and do, because it requires me in order for it to get done. And somebody else is waiting on me to do it so that they know that they can do it. Right. And then it just creates, you know, that cycle of people living in their purpose. Right. And so for me, that was my moment, turning 35 and just facing reality. Yeah. You know? I'm giving myself language. Sorry about that. Yeah. Oh, no, you're fine.
I appreciate that you actually gave a tip in there. Write it down. Like, who are you? Because if you don't know what you're trying to accomplish, like, you know, the standing for, if you fall for anything, you don't stand for anything. But just writing that down, this is what I am. And sometimes you can keep journaling, and then 10 years later you look at that and like, oh, I said this a long time ago. Why is it taking me so long? It shows. It shows. Do you have a personal tip of how to discover who you are?
So actually, building off what you said, it's like, I'm like, yes. The one thing that I have really realized this year is that, honestly, I don't think we're dreaming big enough for ourselves.
Yes.
There's a belief dream right there.
You know, it's like, whether it be for the business or the outreach, you know, whatever it is that we're trying to get. I had an opportunity this year, and it's just like when I'm using the names that are in this opportunity, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm even saying these names in this conversation. Like, how did I get here? And it's like, whether it works out, whatever. But what I said after that is, I will never not dream bigger, because I just had a conversation where this person's name was in it or whatever. And like, what I've done, going back to writing it down, is in my bathroom on the mirror, I have my goals. You know, it's kind of like the vision board, those things that, you know, you hear about doing. And so every single day I'm seeing what I want for myself. And it's that reminder too, to like walk in being proud of yourself and just walk towards what you want. And maybe we don't need to share with others what we want, because they aren't the ones that are going to support us. You know, jealousy or just, you know, the scary, you know, it's a scary thing when we really acknowledge what we want for our lives. And so, you know, it's not that you necessarily have to have a whole team of cheerleaders, but finding that group of people. And I think when you've got that, writing it down and just everyday living for your purpose. And I think that just also builds kind of like the faith. It's just all of the things that it ties together.
I thank y'all for being part of that trial right now, because just trusting that, you know, it's going to happen. So
people will definitely talk you out of doing what you know you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's time for that. I don't think people will really support you. Yeah, and it's just like you got like do it anyway.
Right.
Whether you got people supporting you or not. And the Bible, it tells us that, a prophet is not welcome in their own home. So it's just like your family is not going to be, they may not be your main supporters.
Right.
But that doesn't mean just because you don't have their support not to do it.
Right.
And so like you said, we do have to limit the conversation of when we have a vision, because people are not gonna, the very person you think gonna be supporting it is the very person that'll tell you, no, dog, I don't think that's for you. When you know, because the passion that you have behind it. And it's just like, sometimes we just gotta be ready, brace ourselves for impact, because we gotta do it.
Exactly.
Do it anyway. And those people that are meant to support you, those people that are meant to be there, they'll be there.
Right.
Whether they're there in the beginning, in the middle, or they come in the tail end, they will be there. Because you have to be the one to push start. You have to go first. Yeah.
Yes, and then it's good just to know yourself too and have that inner communication, because I'm really big on inner communication and the words that we say within. And I do a little bit of like life coaching type stuff, because I just know from when I was younger, I was always worried about what people thought. And I'd always just take others' opinions as, okay, well, I'm just going to let myself not be seen or not be heard. And what I've really learned in more recent years is the words we say within, because when we say, well, I'm worth this, or I'm good enough, or I'm going to make, I'm something, I'm going to make something of myself, instead of saying like, I'm never going to become anything, or I'm not worth anything. And so that's something that I really try to emphasize with other people, because when people come and talk to me and they say, well, I don't like my life, or I don't like this, and I'm like, let's reword this. Let's find a way to say it in a way that you can find that strength within. And just with my reflecting back on my own life, I look at how I didn't really connect with that inner strength, and I didn't use the right words to connect with it. And now that I've found this within my own life, I want to help others find it. And I tell others, like, don't put yourself down. Like, let's put this into a way that you can just find that will within, find that love within, and then you'll find your passion, you'll find a purpose. And so that's just something that I really like, is just words, like just the words that we use. And especially having a 2-year-old daughter, I'm just really careful how I word things and how I talk to her, and because I want her to have that faith within herself, and I want her to make a difference in this life. And I want that for more people. So I feel like if we just help one another, then we can just keep on going, keep moving forward with that.
And did you have anything to add to?
I think if I had anything to add, it's just that never doubt your own experience and just your personal story. You always, just by being you, just by your personal lived experience, are going to have something additive. You're going to have something to bring to any room, to any conversation. Yes. And you don't need a fancy vocabulary. You just need your spirit. You just need your heart. Right? So,
because people think, I have to learn this word or speak this word and say, and it's like, no, you don't. Just speak how you speak.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just speak how you speak, and don't be so concerned with trying to sound, this because you're in this room, you're at this table because you deserve to be. Because this spot was created for you. Because a lot of times I would think, I have a very southern twang, it's in Mississippi. I'm from Texas, but I lived in Mississippi for a while. My mom, she's like, don't even claim Texas anymore. You all Mississippi. And it's just like, sometimes I just, I'm just like, ooh, like, I know that was country and I talk fast. But it's like, then I got to, who cares? I deserve to be in this room, so what if I sound a little bit more southern than other people, but that's what makes us unique, because we're all from different places. Everybody's not from the same place. It does not mean that I am not well spoken because I don't use specific words or I don't sound a certain way. Growing up, we were talking, people say, oh, you sound white. Oh, you sound black. Oh, you sound Hispanic. Like, what does that sound like? Why don't I just sound like me? Why don't they just sound like them? And it's just like, but that's what society does. It puts these stereotypes on us, and we will fall into that trap, and then we'll go trying to shift ourselves again. And so, just like, so I'm so glad you hit on that, the vocabulary part, because a lot of times I used to be in the headspace of thinking I had to use specific words or sound a certain way to be where I was meant to be.
Right.
I just want to say one more thing, shout out, because I literally was just talking to my mom this morning about just not growing up in a vacuum of like not hearing our true histories and not having representation. And I was telling my mom, like, God, I have to tell you, some of the most pivotal influences in my life have been Black women authors.
Mm-hmm.
Toni Morrison, I will never forget being in high school and I picked up Beloved. And that book changed my life. Like, I have a picture of Toni Morrison that my friend painted in my living room.
Oh, nice.
Yes, but I think that there was just there wasn't a lot, and I wasn't like a super avid reader, but like when I read that book, I was like, wow, that's like, you know, her work and Bell Hooks and, you know, Alice Walker. And like, I ended up like getting into all of these different books because I always knew like it was important to feel seen, but it was also important to speak truth to power.
Right.
And again, why I go back to like, you know, that sense of like oppression. And when I see other people like oppressed, like, I think that's like that social justice fire. So I just wanted to bring that into the space and acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And so what you do in media, Jameka, I think is so critical. It's so important.
Yes.
So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. And I thank you all, ladies. We have about 5 minutes till 3, so I definitely want to make sure that people can like, follow you if they want to be more inspired, right? Because I'm completely inspired. I feel like I have more questions, but it's just time right now. But
We can do a part 2.
yeah,
Would y'all be down for a part 2?
Now we got the kinks out. We are
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but so where can people find you on social media, Cari?
Well, I just recently deactivated my Facebook.
So not there.
So I mean, maybe at a future time, but right now I'm just kind of, because a friend of mine said, did you know that there's 168 hours in a week? What do you do with your time? And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I'm trying to just like manage my time and just spend time with family. So at the moment, I'm just taking a step back from social media. So you can find me here downtown.
Right.
Yes.
How about you?
I'm also not a Facebook person, really. I just go on there for my messages. I really haven't been using it to post. I do have an Instagram. Be forewarned because I'm kind of fringy. Just kidding. No, it's just I think it's at Daazhraii. Daazhraii. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I'm opposite. I have it all. I have an Instagram and Facebook, Kelly Ward CPA. Post a lot of like kind of tips and things like that. 2024, trying to put a lot more impact out there, so there'll be a lot of information there. Also on TikTok and Threads and X or Twitter or whatever, and they're all the same name, Kelly Ward CPA. But yeah, but more so just trying to get the information out there financially and stuff. So, because trying to take the worry out of taxes.
Yes.
Thank you.
And so for me, I am just primarily on Facebook, and it's Mahogany D Mitchell. You can find me there, but I've definitely been inspired to do more. So be on the lookout for that.
That's right.
So I'm excited about it.
I thank you, ladies, so much for your time, and I thank y'all for the audience members, the people in the that actually came through the room. And whenever this posts on YouTube, I am Jameka Lache Mogul, and I thank you so much. You can find me on Instagram at JamekaLachemogul, and find me on Thursdays out of Peculiar Push, and we'll have like more people talking about their journeys, and that's at 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. on KSUA 91.5 FM or KSUAradio.com. So I thank you so much. Just before we go, if you get a chance, read 1 Peter 2:9. That tells you that you are a chosen person, a holy generation, and a peculiar people. So thank you so much, Pasha. That's a love to you.